Good evening, and my name is Destiny Cameron. I am a student at the University of Memphis, and I wanted to kind of spread some awareness and some information on the identity crisis that can happen. And I think it's something that's relevant to modern day and in this age. So we have our character here who is created by Arthur Toby Litt in his short story Monster. And in this short story, our monster has no name. They don't really know their identity, which is really the biggest issue in this story. Our monster does not know their name, barely any recognition of family or community, isn't even enticed to want to engage with their peers. And although they don't know where this monster came from, but that's how they view themselves. They have floppy ears, their stomach covers their genitals, so they don't really know their gender either. They have rough skin, apparently, and their memory is very terrible. So their existence is in and out of trying to basically recall who they are, which is hard for them because they're trying to live in this society where they know nothing about themselves. And so they have no sense of self. And they self-isolate, and they even run into trees to feel something. They don't want anything to do with the other gender in regards to intimacy or sex. And they're not even imposed to. Although they are curious, they watch the stars and they wonder what life will be like, and they're curious about their existence, of course, but they even avoid puddles to not see themselves, which I think is terrible, because if they avoid puddles, then they're avoiding themselves, and they're self-imposing their depression and isolation onto themselves, honestly. And you would think that with them calling themselves, say, a monster, they would be destructive and horrid and ugly on the inside and outside. But to their recollection, their parents raised them to be kind and gentle and, to take care of those in any type of nature. Although they're not very kind to themselves, but they are kind to others. And that plays a big part in who they are, although they don't really know their reason for living. And I don't think they really even care to know. But that's how they choose to live their life, which I think nothing is wrong with that if you're okay with who you are as a person. But they're not okay with who they are as a person, which is why they feel the way that they do. And they do things that they do, like isolate themselves, and they don't want to be around anyone because they can't really face themselves. And in the end of our short story, our character really never changes anything about themselves. And this character, I forgot to mention, they view themselves as different from everyone else. Their floppy ears, their big stomach, it hangs over their genitals. They have apparently rough skin, feels like a fruit, and their memory is fading in and out every day. So they feel like their body changes and fluctuates almost every day, which I'm sure is not the case, but their memory is very bad. So they can only remember so much. But they avoid puddles. They can't even look at themselves. And they question their existence and even living. So there are like so many changes that would help them try to be more accepting of themselves and their differences from other people or other creatures. And exploring would be one of those things, of course, looking for other creatures to interact with, because I'm sure they're not the only ones who feel this way or look that way. The negative down talk, the self-imposed depression, it's terrible. It only weighs you down, and it keeps you in that mindset that you question what's your purpose for even being there. And I feel like the character should accept their differences, and although they don't really know themselves, they should get to try to explore themselves more, even with their big belly or their rough skin, because that's who they are, and that doesn't make them bad or that doesn't make them a monster. It's about accepting who you are as a person. And also the memory plays a big part, of course. And although memory won't bring back their moments from when they were growing up, but marking the trees, for example, it would help to come back with their short-term memory, because they go to different trees and to get different fruits. And the marking the trees would help with remembering, like they've been to this tree. But I'm sure there are multiple different ways that a lot of different changes would help them, but I think those are just a few things that would help. And while this short story may be about a creature who does not know their identity, their reason for existence, and isolates and has bad memory, this of course does relate to modern day world. And especially for example, a person who was born in the Gen Z, which would be me, for example, I can put myself in that monster. Like, I can literally imagine myself doing those things, because I'm even myself, like, I can attest, like, I have self-imposed isolation on myself sometimes when I feel like no one understands me, or I feel like no one knows how I'm feeling or what I'm going through, and I feel like it doesn't even matter. So my music does not like company, and I am by myself. I push people away. I ignore people, and that's not the best thing to do. But in that moment, you're only thinking about yourself, and you're only thinking about how you feel like no one understands you, which it's okay, but you can't stay in that. You can't sit in that rut forever. Emotions are fleeting, and every day is something different, and life is not fair. So, of course, there are days where they are going to be rough. There are days when you're going to have better days. It's just life itself, and you have to figure out a way to get through life, but it should not be with you self-imposing anything on yourself that is negative to you and your well-being. And so I just wanted to take some time to give resources to people who may actually feel like this in their current day in life, and especially for my peers who go to the University of Memphis, our wellness centers and our counseling and our student groups. Our counseling center is always available, and of course they have our hotline numbers. But our wellness centers, they are great for like a cool down, or when you're overstimulated, having a bad day. And these are stations that are located like all around the university actually, but they are there to help students calm down. For those who may not attend the university, but they live in Memphis, of course, and want to seek help, we have our crisis wellness, which is downtown. As you can see, the 3200 Barter Avenue, that's probably around downtown area, and it is open 24/7, so no appointment is needed, which is great for immediate care when you're just having a bad day or about to have a meltdown. They're open 24/7 to your availability. And the Transformation Center, located in Cordova, their program specialized in holistic care, so it's perfect for people who suffer from depression or negative self-talk, and they have groups who discuss these types of things, and so you get to understand that the things that you're feeling, like, you're not alone. There are other people who experience the same things that you're feeling or thinking the same things that you're thinking. And for someone who wants to engage with something with less social pressure, there are nature retreats, and sometimes you just need to be able to reflect and have that quiet time. And we have a lot of different parks in the city of Memphis, but just a few here are the Old Forest State Natural Area, the Nesbitt Park, and the Litcherman Nature Center. Which brings me to the end of my presentation, but I just wanted to reiterate that anyone who may or is feeling that way about themselves, you are never alone. And I can say this because I used to be the same way. I felt like nobody really was going through the things that I was going through, or they didn't think the things that I thought, they didn't feel the way that I felt. And 9 times out of 10, that's really not true. And once you go out and explore and you try to talk to new people or you try to get that help, you come to realize that a lot of people actually feel this way. And it's not normal, but it's something that can get worked through. And you don't have to be ashamed for feeling how you feel or thinking how you do, because life is not fair to everyone. Life is not fair to anybody, I'm sure. But there are people who will help you, and they want you to be better for yourself so that you're able to enjoy the finer things in your life.